Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Line Change, the NHL betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Leboff, and joining me for this, our preview episode for the playoff games coming our way on Monday and Tuesday are Nick Martin and Tim Kalinowski. 2 games on Monday night, 3 on Tuesday night. That's what we'll cover here. We'll start with an elimination game. We've had one team bounce from the Stanley Cup playoffs. That was Nick's Washington Capitals just moments ago. Will the Tampa Bay Lightning become the second? They are plus 162 in Florida after winning game 4, 6-3 on home ice. The Panthers minus 196 returning to Sunrise as the home team, and the total here is 6.5. The game on Saturday was interesting for a couple reasons. Most notable was Mikhail Sergachev coming back to bolster the Lightning decor, and even someone coming off an injury like that and being sat out for as long as he was an upgrade, I think, just to that team and the decor that they've been trotting out. So that is notable. I do still think I would lean towards Florida here in a rout. I think they've been better at 5-on-5 for the most part. The Lightning are just getting a ton of power plays. I think 17 in the first 4 games. That's got to stop. Of course, they've converted on 4 of them. Scored a shorty as well on Saturday. So if the Panthers can find a way to just like batten down the hatches a bit and keep this thing at 5-on-5, I do like their chances. And if they do, I think it gets out of hand. So that's what I'd be looking at. I have more bets down the board that I like more though, Nick.
That's exactly where I was at. I'm looking at it a little differently. I'm a little afraid of the Lightning winning this game and then it going back to Tampa for game 6, and then we would actually need the Panthers to win that game for anyone who tailed me on the series spread. So I hope they get it done. I honestly thought the Lightning would they're plus 162. I thought that looked a touch long. I'd be closer to playing the Lightning, but I didn't have enough conviction for either side to have a play. And the same thing, I like Stamkos to go over 3.5 shots. I ended up playing this Saturday once I saw that they were I was kind of already liking it, given my thoughts they'd get a lot of power plays. And then when I saw they were going to play him with Point and Kucherov and really put all their eggs in one basket, I thought that it was a really good number. So I feel the same, but my one thing, you did point out that they're less likely to get as many power plays, which makes it a little bit less of a smash, and I do agree with that. And the other thing is there's a chance maybe they remodel the lines with the thought that with the game in Florida and the Panthers now having last change, they're not as keen on having that line just like all their eggs in one basket. But I think they'll probably stick with it. So I'm going to keep my eye on the morning skate. But I think that the Stamkos to go over 3.5 shots is a pretty good look. So that's my one play from this one, and then just hoping that the Panthers can wrap it up.
Yeah, I honestly, we talked about how I was kind of chasing the over in games in this series, the total goals in every game. Games 1 and 2 obviously were unders, and those were 5.5. And then we get, but the expected goals in both those games are way higher. Both goalies played really well. Now we have 2 games that go over, and the expected goals actually would have led you more towards an under, and now we have a 6.5. So I feel like it's kind of been like a weird cat and mouse here with like the total compared to what the expected has been, just reading from Money Puck right now. So I do have a lean on under 6.5. I could end up playing that. Just it's funny how we eventually did get that jump from the 5.5 on the games 1 and 2 to now 6.5, and maybe it's not totally warranted compared to Now we're seeing Tampa convert on some power plays, get a shorthanded goal, which helps things out. So I kind of have a lean to the under there. But other than that, I'm probably, Nick, I'll tell you on that Stamkos. But other than that, I don't have a strong feel here. This line's the game line seems pretty sharp to me.
Okay, the other game on Monday night is game 4 between the Knights and Stars. This one in Vegas. The road team has won the first 3, so that means Dallas. A season-saving win in overtime with Wyatt Johnson getting the winner. The Stars are now a slight road favorite in Vegas, minus 115. Knights minus 105. Totals 5.5. If you were listening to us the past few episodes, we were talking about getting in on Stars futures while they were down. You can obviously still do that. The number would of course have come down, but there's still other ways in, Nick, and I think for us, who all three of us are on the same page in this game, we like the Stars. But you're gonna talk about a couple of Conn Smythe futures that you might want to hitch your wagon to with this Dallas Stars team if you did miss maybe the 25-1 on them to win the Stanley Cup future.
Yeah, I want to keep dipping in on the Stars over and over because I think some of these numbers are just really good sprinkles to add in. So we suggested Heiskanen pre-series. I still think at 75-1, there's good money there. He was insane last night. You could just see that every time he was on the ice, they were just going to keep dominating, giving up nothing. So I think he's like the one that I was obviously kind of already in on, and I think it's going to be sustainable, that he'll be really, really good. And then Wyatt Johnson's 100-1. I think that might be buying, like, we might be buying a touch high, given that obviously he maybe played a touch above his head, but I still think that's just too long. And it all just comes back to my belief that this is a series that, and I know a lot of people would argue this with what the Avs are doing to the Jets right now, but I still think that this is a series between two teams that could go all the way. And I love what the Stars are doing. And you look at that game, like, that was insane. I was ready to have a fit if the Stars somehow lost that game, because that was just pure domination. They played such a good overtime on top of everything else. NST had the high danger chances at 27-4, and I honestly think it was like close to that bad. Like, in overtime, it was just like, I feel like they managed everything so perfectly. All Vegas could get was just the odd chance going the other way. I was just ready to be miserable if they lucked into some stupid point shot going in or something, and they finally got it done. And we know that was obviously not Vegas's best night, but I feel confident that we're going to see the Stars continue to own more of the play and build on it here in this critical game 4. And I just think that this is still a pretty good number when really it just feels like Vegas is going to be banking on another incredible goaltending performance and winning against the run of play. And those stats we were throwing out a lot about the road teams are now coming to fruition. Road teams are up to 16-13. So I continue to say, and we've been saying it the whole time, like, you're going to take a hit if you're paying for home ice advantage because of the way it's priced in. If you look at the way a ton of the series swung from games 2 to games 3 and the way the pricing changed, it proved the point entirely, because there was a bunch where the number swung like 30 cents and then the one team upset, or in Boston's case, upset twice. So it's just like, you don't want to pay that tax, I don't think. I really don't think it means much. Both teams are on the same rest. Teams aren't afraid to go in on the road and just play hockey. So I think that's something to keep in mind, and it works to my point about liking the Stars here. So yeah, I like the Stars. I still think they can go all the way, and I think that Conn Smythe's good here. I think betting them again in game 4 is good here, and not even so much as a knock against the Knights. I just feel like they're trending to playing, like they finished first in the West, and they look like a team that finished first in the West.
Yeah, we should, Nick, you should try to adjust for the last 2 years the away records and just take out Toronto and see what the number is.
It would still be.
they have had a heavy contribution to that. Now, and your point still stands. It's true, but it's funny that they have been responsible for what six of those now in the last 2 years, or 6 straight at least.
It's crazy.
So that's when we're obviously going to get to that. But I thought in game 2 of this series, I was ready to kind of throw in the towel and say, look, this Vegas team just defends extremely well, because even when Dallas started to have their pushes in that game 2, Vegas defended extremely well, but that wasn't the case in game 3. They really, really put a lot on Thompson, and he was still spectacular for how outplayed Vegas got by Dallas. So I'm interested to what you guys think, because to me, what is scaring me off a little bit, I mean, I'm probably gonna be on Stars here. We have a lot invested in the Stars in terms of taking that future at 25-1, but the Thompson factor, like, is this Aiden Hill all over again? Because this guy has been tremendous, but from a betting standpoint, I want to say he can't keep this up. But it's kind of been this Vegas team's MO, it feels like.
Yeah, and I mean, Vegas is going to defend better than that. I don't think they're going to give up like 4 breakaways or whatever the total was. But with that said, I feel confident that Dallas is going to continue owning more of the play. The other thing that I think is really interesting, and I hope they obviously get the same boost at this point, is that I thought that game was so identical to when the Caps went down 2-0 to Columbus in that series, and they really didn't need to be down 2-0. And then game 3, the Caps almost blew their lead, never should have been there. And I mean, the Caps actually kind of got lucky to win that overtime, would be the one thing that was a little different. But then they ended up winning the series 4-2 and going all the way. So I would love to see the Stars get that same boost here and get out of the first round. I thought that was a little interesting asterisk that I noticed as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Thompson thing is just like, he still was incredible.
Yep.
Like, it's
insane. I mean, he was an all-star like a year and a half ago, so it's not completely out of the blue.
Okay, so that's Tuesday night. That's Monday night. Tuesday night is a 3-game slate. All 3 are elimination games. All 3 feature a team down 3-1. We'll start with the Leafs and Bruins. Toronto is plus 136. The Bruins minus 164. Total here's 5.5. There's of course a lot to get into after what happened in game 4 on Hockey Night in Canada. And as soon as that game ended, I was like, I'm gonna be betting the Leafs on Tuesday night, because this is gonna absolutely push this number to a place where it hasn't been this series, despite the fact that they now have William Nylander in their lineup. So I think that the Leafs at plus 136 here is the way to look. You can feel any way you want about the way that they lost that game, but time and again in the Stanley Cup's playoffs, like, you do learn that these guys are just they're professional athletes. They can just absolutely wipe slates clean better than anyone. Perhaps the Leafs are the anomaly, or like the outlier, one of the outliers in this situation because of the ghosts that they see. But still, like, I'll trust that. Like, game 1 closed plus 124, so that's with Swayman in goal, and that's no Nylander. And now you're getting 12 ticks higher with Nylander in goal. I mean, with Nylander in the lineup, I think it's a pretty clear cut case that the Leafs are the right side to bet. But I can totally understand nobody wanting to join me here, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of movement. I don't think I can do it. I'm too pissed off about needing that series split already and the effort that Toronto put forward. And
it's pretty solid first 10 minutes of the third.
Yeah,
we can build on that. We can build on that.
I had the game off by then.
Spoken like a true Islanders fan right there.
I wasn't gonna be able to watch all the games on Saturday. I had some other stuff going on, so I had to like pick and choose, the time that I was gonna have hockey on that my girlfriend could tolerate, and the Leafs third period didn't make the cut. So I just think the thing with Toronto is you can call it the Stars because the Stars haven't been great. They're also in a horrible environment. I think that Keefe has no adjustments for what Boston's doing, which has been the same story for every series. And their D can't pass the puck anywhere. They can't get it going north. They can't skate it. They can't, even in the offensive zone, it's pretty limited what they can control. So, yeah, I think you can call out the effort from guys like Marner, obviously, that was pretty pathetic at times in that game and in the series. But I do think that if you flip them onto another team and let them play with some D that can actually make a play, it would also help them look a little better. So that scares me off a little bit. And that's also why I kind of like the first period under. It's out there at even money. I think it's a solid look because we've seen these elimination games from Toronto. We know the way it goes. It feels like you're going to get 2-1 game one way or another, maybe 3-2. You could do the game under, but I feel like in these eliminations too, you get the double over or the extra empty net pull in situations like that more often. So I kind of prefer to just start with the first period under and go from there. I think that's a decent look. I don't really think Toronto sorts it out offensively. I think it's just more of the same. Every playoff game, and it's really contrary to what people think, is, and I get it, it's because the defenders are bad, I think, has driven a lot of the reasons. So you can nitpick that part of it, but it's not because they defend horribly. It's because their defenders can't drive play at all and help create. And I think we're just going to see the same thing here. They always just play not to lose, just flip pucks out, do what they can to hang around, try to get something. And I don't know if we'll necessarily see a different game script. So I'm thinking something tight in this matchup, something low scoring. I think kind of comparable to some of the games early on in the series. So that's, I guess really the last one too. But yeah, I just feel like a lot of that stuff's not going to change. We've seen it year in and year out with Keefe and this Leafs team. And I think that's just what they are in the playoffs at this point.
Yeah, I got a bunch here. First thing, Leboff, on your talk about the line movement, it also caught my eye. But then you look back, game two, actually Boston closed minus 153. So this is still, it's sitting at minus 162-ish here right now. So it's still longer than that. But I would say, one, are we maybe getting a Woll start? Two, are we maybe
He doesn't start Woll. I think he's out of his mind.
Yeah, okay. So there you go. Right?
I would be absolutely floored if he goes back to Sammy.
So we got the Nylander, that's a plus. Woll, I'd say more question mark. Then the Matthews situation with him leaving the game in the third period. I know it's been battling some sort of an illness. Elliott said on the podcast that it was food poisoning for game 3, but for him to leave game 4 with 2 days rest, see, they said it's some illness he can't shake or whatever. So is this enough time for him to get over that? The Bruins sticking with Swayman, all this to say, this line is still, like you said, has gotten longer, which makes me lean Toronto and probably going to be planning on betting Toronto just because of that. And I will say this too, Nick, you are bang on about the defense. Like, part of why having the Makars and the Quinn Hugheses of the world is not just because they're tremendous defenders. You spend a little time in your own end, and it's one pass out of your own end, which means your forwards have to use less energy coming back, getting open, having to take an extra hit from a maroon or whatnot, and they can go up the ice. But you lose me in this conversation, and we can have this for another day. But when the Leafs power play is 7% and the Bruins power play is
100%. You can't argue that. No,
can't argue it.
Can't argue that at all. But I'm saying you can call it the stars, but I'm saying a big part of the lack of production has always been that they don't have and part of it has been Keefe's been the coach the entire time, and it feels like every time they get in the playoffs, it's the same thing. They're basically just playing not to lose and looking to just get pucks out any way possible. And
I was a forward who made fun of defensemen for, said, get me the puck, this and that. The case is closed when it's like, when you get 4 forwards on the ice on the power play and you can't score. Like, that's when you get to turn back and say, see what happens when we start in our own end. Like,
but I mean, it's 2 different problems, right? Like, it's the one is helping drive the lack of even strength production. And again, like, it's not helping that the forwards have just been brutal, but I do think if you flip the decors in this series, all of a sudden you'd be seeing Boston Stars having a tougher time and seeing the Leaf Stars having an easier time. And just not even like, and again, this was a lot of people predicted going in, but like, you can just see like some of those plays, even like TJ Brody reaching the goal at the end of the second makes like a 50-50 read, bad read, like cross crease tap in for Pasternak. What Bruins D would have made that play? Like,
yeah, but it's true but the Bruins they're playing a D that has Parker Wotherspoon and Kevin Shattenkirk on it, and I
Mason
mean,
that is true.
Like the
Lowry's good though.
I know he
good. Really is. He bounced back with from what I saw.
I thought he was like the third best player behind Marchand and Pasternak and
when he's on,
but still, like that's
really
why
good.
I find these conversations so funny, because it's like, the least second best puck mover is probably Jake McCabe, and he's fine, but when he's your second best like transporter, that's a problem. But people are talking about this all the time, and I'm like, just look at who they're playing against. Like, they don't have a McAvoy and a Lindholm and a Carlo, but they also have a Shattenkirk and they have a Wotherspoon. Like, this is
still the way
James Van
Riemsdyk,
JVR.
Yeah,
it's and to put a bow on it too, like, Nylander should help the power play. And I want, like, for years, the Bruins, like my younger years of the Bruins, were that they would take dumb penalties against the Canadians, and then the Canadians would just go on the power play and just tear them apart, right? Just snap it around in the net. Like, the Leafs, if they could do that, they could be like the Bruins, what it was for me growing up, when it would just be like Saku Koivu on the power play and, Mike Ribeiro. Like, that's just what used to happen. If they could just be competent on the power play, they're in the series.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, even when you're talking about, they have the third pairing of Wotherspoon, like the Wotherspoon Shattenkirk unit. The top 4D are all like to a man better than basically anyone Toronto has. So
I don't disagree. But
why I think it's gonna be hard to change. And then the last point I should note about why I think unders are decent looks is we'll see how it gets called at some point. And I do think this has been part of Toronto's problem, and in large because Toronto's power play hasn't made them pay at all, Tim, and the Bruins power play has been excellent. But they've taken so many penalties just trying to be physical and trying to like be pricks and agitate. And at some point, I think you got to throw in the towel on that because, and I really do think that was part of the gamesmanship from Marchand in saying like, this is a different Leafs team.
Yep.
This is, and I think in his head he's like, all right, keep doing it because we're gonna keep feeding you on on the power play, and you'll keep getting your tiny shots in that I'm not worried about taking.
Yep.
So anyways, I think that could work to the unders here too, because I think at some point, if you're Toronto in an elimination game, you give up trying to get little shots in, but
That's a good point.
we'll see.
Unless they just come completely unraveled.
Yeah.
That is a possibility. Yeah. That's why I like the first period unders though, because these ones can get off the rails and then see where it goes from there.
Okay. Let's talk about the other Eastern Conference elimination special. That's the Islanders double overtime winner on Saturday, which was my birthday. So I did appreciate that. Thank you, Islanders. They are plus 205 in Carolina. Canes minus 255. Total is 5.5. So while we saw some movement between the first two home games between the Bruins and Leafs to the third one, there's nothing here. This is a mirror image of where the prices were for Islanders and Canes, game 1 and 2 in Carolina. I think we can still not. I don't think anything's changed with the series at all. Like what we said after game 1 is still very relevant for game 5, which is that the 5-on-5 battle has been pretty good. It's 6 goals apiece at 5-on-5. The Canes have the better power play. The Islanders penalty killing's rough, but the Islanders power plays found a way in. Both teams are getting good goaltending, and I think that makes it a little bit tough to stomach a minus 255 because it's likely to be tight here. So if I had to play it, I would play the Islanders. I'm not going to bet it because I've got enough just emotionally invested in this team right now. So those are my thoughts. I just think a lot tighter than you'd want if you're going to be laying minus 255, even with a team that's really, really good at home, Nick.
Yeah, I agree. It's a little plus 205 feels like a pretty big number to take on with how the games have ended up being somewhat competitive. I think that the Islanders will be in with enough of a shot that I can see it. I don't think it's like a complete tap in. You'd think they can bring it a little better than they did on the island, but I didn't really have a lot of thoughts here, to be honest. I feel like this one is, I don't know, I'm just waiting to see where the series goes. I can't even honestly say I want it for you either. I really want the Canes to wrap it up and get the cup outright futures looking good. So I'm just kind of invested enough on that. But that number really, plus 205 does seem a little pretty crazy to me. I think you could consider that. Or I don't hate overtime again. Like
Jesus Christ.
I think targeting the same kind of narratives as we saw Saturday is reasonable. But that's really all I've got.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things. If we could guarantee the game was 5-on-5 and that one team wasn't down 3-1 in the series, like it's the Islanders, but on the money line. But the problem is, we bring up, the early goalie pull situations, like, in power play. That's why I would, if I feel like you're strong on the Canes, I'd feel way better about just taking the puck line and hoping that, like I said, it's a 2-1 game and you're something like that, and you get the early goalie pull, something like that, that to go your way and help you out. I think the way I'm going to look at this is, Nick, you were on that Horvat shots, I believe, last game. I think looking at some player shot props. Were you?
Oh, sorry, Barzal, I was saying.
Oh, yeah. Barzal. Oh, yeah. But either way, I think the way I would kind of go at this is shot props. Picking the right guys on Carolina. I wrote down Jarvis, possibly Aho, because when Carolina seems to handle the play, it can be like a barrage of about, it seems like 10 in one sequence. So that would be where I'm looking for this game.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll have their share. And I don't hate, like, I felt confident that it would be Barzal, who, like, I feel like he always shows up in the big games. And I wouldn't hate going back to him if I was considering some Islanders stuff. That also gives me a good chance, Tim, too, just to quickly throw in, because I feel like I honestly do get about 6-7 DMs a week about this, which is more than I get about anything else. and it's people being confused about picks. I post in the app with a note. So please, if that ever ends up being you, I do just sometimes there will be a note explaining something because there's for whatever reason sometimes I need to use them and they will help you out. I did use it to track Barzell overtime winner on Saturday, so hopefully some people got that one out of it.
All right, two more to get to. Another elimination game. Avalanche and Jets in Winnipeg. This time it's the road team looking to eliminate the home team. Colorado's -115, Winnipeg -105. Total here 6.5. This is playing out very eerily similar to what we saw with the Jets and Knights last season when Winnipeg took game one, looked like they could pull it off, and then lost 3-3 on the spin, come home last time would be on the road, but come around to game 5 and now they're facing elimination. It's hard to bet against the Avs at this price, even on the road here. It really is. They look like they've clicked into one of their modes. It sounds like such a subjective kind of trust me take, but I mean, just watch the games, man. Like these guys they're rolling now. They're getting production from all over the top 6. Like Mikko Rantanen, I don't think has scored yet in the series. Like there's still more to give here. So it's hard not to play the Avs here in what's essentially a pick 'em, Nick.
Yeah, and I think one thing that happened with this series, and I completely agree with you, I think you have to do Avs or pass. It feels like a big reach to say the Jets are just going to clean it up. I was wrong on that take in the Lightning elimination game the other day, which scares me up a little bit. But it feels like, and this is kind of what happened last year, the Jets' flaws got hidden by those regular season wins over the Avs, and people started to circle in on the things that they could do well, and then now that we're in the series, it just like I was suspicious when they got Monahan at the deadline when we went into that he couldn't manage, like he wouldn't actually succeed in minutes at even strength versus good players, and that made him a far less appealing ad than people kind of thought when he had just racked up even strength points and really wasn't actually doing that good in terms of his two-way play. Same kind of thing with Tyler Toffoli. He's been getting exposed. So, and then their decor, the Jets decor is just they don't have enough pieces to keep the Avs in check. They don't have enough guys that can skate. So it feels like it's a lot to ask for the Jets to clean it up. The Avs just keep getting just zone entry after zone entry. They're generating so many chances. And I just, at this point, I have a hard time feeling like the adjustments are coming. This number is a huge swing from what we just saw for the 2 games in Colorado. And those were obviously really dominant wins. So I don't know. It feels like it's a big reach to say that the Jets can figure it out. I think you play the Avs or you pass here. I don't know. I don't really know what indicators you'd like about taking the Jets at this kind of number when you just saw them get smoked 3 games in a row. And yeah, like that is a good point you raised about the series last year, because it's like identical. Like they were a trendy pick to win the series last year by us. We gave that out by a ton of people. And game 1, everyone thought it was genius. And then the rest of the way, they just had no answers, and feels pretty similar now. And then the other thing too is like their stars are just getting exposed compared to the Avs. And this was also something you could kind of see coming in the back 2 months of the year. Scheifele, Connor were doing pretty bad at even strength in terms of chances allowed for and against. And that's carried out in the series. So it's just, there's a lot of question marks for the Jets to answer.
Yeah. And also too, the Avs have gotten great production from the rest of their forward group, but beyond the big guns. Like Middlestat's been great. Like that line has totally carried their water. It's like Lakinen's been great, and you look to like depth would have to be the reason why the Jets did their thing. They just passed it on to the next line, relied on Hellerbuck. That obviously, I mean, he's been a disaster. I know he's just getting absolutely pelted, but you need him to do more than what he's done. He can't get outplayed by the guy on the other end of the ice for Colorado. And I thought the Dillon injury was a big deal going into this game on Sunday, like that gruesome injury.
That was bad.
Dillon does a lot for them, and like I think that they're too thin on the back end without him. And also too, Nemestikov, that was ugly too. And so like they just, they should have, you should feel like there's better depth. I guess, Leopold, I'm laughing because you said the Avalanche feel like a trust me bro take. Betting the Jets at this price is way more of a trust me bro.
Yeah,
All
that's
the
how I feel.
reasons
Like
to
that's
bet.
just like you're kind of just saying it's an elimination game. It's home.
Yeah.
They're gonna find a way. And I
Yeah.
get that part of it. Like they're gonna play better than they did in Colorado, but they're also just kind of getting systematically demolished, which is like we saw this exact same situation last year. Also, the one of the biggest cold takes of all time was I texted our group chat Lehkonen eyes emoji because he had become the series goal leader for about 6 minutes before Val scored back to back and took the lead entirely. Not even a dead heat, just took the lead entirely. So that hurt.
That's it's a lesson for everybody. Um, okay, so we're all on the same page with the Avs there. We'll wrap up with the Predators and Canucks. This one is 3-1 going back to Vancouver in dramatic fashion. Nationals plus 100 here in the elimination game. Canucks minus 120, totals 5.5. A lot to get to here. Since we last talked, Casey DeSmith was absolutely nails in a Game 3 win for the Canucks, in which the Predators, I thought, fully deserved the win, and they didn't get it. Eerily similar to the Thatcher Demko situation, just randomly, he finishes the game, randomly the next day, we start seeing Elliot Friedman tweet about Rick Tockett's media availability, saying that he's not going to confirm a starter or something, and lo and behold, Casey DeSmith is now out, and the Canucks are relying on Arturs Silovs, who did play a chunk in the regular season. So it's not like this is just a guy completely coming in cold turkey. Of course, Demko was out for quite a bit in during the regular season, and Silovs, the Latvian, got some runway, and he's been fine. I mean, I don't really know if there's it's impossible to say if there's a huge gap between, a decent backup goalie and the third stringer, Silovs, who what he get 4 or 5 games in, and he played well in that in that time frame for the Canucks. That said, I do think that the Predators are playing well enough here with the goaltending edge that they should have with Saros hasn't shown up, that I do think that they're a fine bet at plus money. I don't think that there's much between these two teams. Obviously, the way that Game 4 played out is going to seep into the market a little bit with the miracle comeback from Vancouver. You don't think many people will think. People will probably bet into the Predators won't be able to pick themselves off the mat mentality, but I disagree with that. I actually think this team is like built to pick itself off the mat. So I like the Predators here. Plus, as long as you get even money or better, and hope that they can figure out Arturs Silovs. Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's not even that bad of a number if you had the normal expected goaltending matchup, because I think the series has been really closely contested, and that, I mean, obviously today the Preds deserve better, and credit to the Canucks for finding a way. You got to close up the games, but it comes down to, it was obviously still a miracle comeback, and if Sisson's team is just frowning because he's reliving it, but I mean, if Sisson's, can put the puck one more centimeter inside the post, the game's over, and we'd be talking about how Nashville played a really solid game and found a way. And it's not like goaltending played that much of a factor. And DeSmith was really solid in Game 3, obviously, and I think that also works in the Predators' favor because they're showing that outside of the goaltending, this is a very reasonable number, I think, and I think we'll see that carry out again. We talked before this about how Greg Wyshynski posted that this was an example of why people didn't want Andrew Brunette because he got outcoached in the playoffs. And I think that's a completely idiotic statement. Like, what about the last 2 games has told you that the Predators got outcoached? I think that's ridiculous. I feel like that, the eye test and the numbers will tell you that they were right there with the Canucks, or if anything, actually carried a lot more to the play. And they were supposed to be like an 85-point team this year. So I don't really know what he's supposed to do differently. And that works my point here. I don't think he is getting outcoached, and I don't think they're really getting outplayed. So I think I'm with you, Mike. I think it's a pretty good number. And I think the Preds can go in there and steal one, and maybe the goaltending edge does play out in this game.
Oh man, Leboff, it's not about can Nashville pick themselves up off the mat. It's if you bet Nashville in game 4, can you pick yourself off the mat and bet them again? The number is Nashville all the way, but I had Nashville in that game. Obviously, I had Nashville puck line. And so that, it really, really, really stings. And I don't know. So that is a hard thing to do to turn yourself around after that one. I agree with all you guys said in terms of the number for this game being Nashville, but it's again from a betting standpoint and from a playing standpoint, that has a lot to overcome. I wish there was another sphere or something that Brunette could take away from them going into game 5 on Tuesday, so we could get that fire from Nashville, because that was hard. And I'm glad we didn't do the pod directly after that game, because I don't know if I would have showed my face.
Yeah, I think if you lose like that though, Tim, and you have an elimination game, the guys will probably be up for it, I think. But yeah, that's credit to you for coming on here. Although I did, come on after having my heart broken by the Capitals. I really thought they might pull out that series.
Yeah, Nick, come on. Come on. Let's talk about real things here.
We'll end the show. We'll give out our best bets, but we'll end this portion of the show with this bit of wisdom for you, Tim. It won't get any better. You're gonna have a lot more nights like that and a lot more bets like that. So the quicker you can become numb to them, the better. And
I thought I had. That's the thing, and it just
you'll get there. Okay. If you had to pick out a best bet, Tim, which one would you pick from these 2 nights?
While I gather myself here, I'm passing to Nick. Nick, you go first. I went first last time.
All right. I'm going to go with the Preds. I think the Preds at even money is really solid look.
Okay. After all that thinking. Thank you for all that time. I'm going to step off the mound here and rub up the ball. I'll go with the Stars. Okay.
Yeah, I'll go Avs for my favorite bet. So there you go. Predators for Nick, Avalanche for me. Tim likes the Stars. 3 Western Conference teams, 3 road teams to bring home to close the point that Nick made earlier about the home road splits. There you go. Okay, we'll be back after this slate of games, so it'll be a Tuesday night recording in all likelihood. We'll be back for you. That means Wednesday morning, if I have my days right. If I don't, I apologize, but you'll be hearing from us soon and more as the Stanley Cup playoffs roll on. So best of luck with all your bets. Thank you to our producer Noah on the back end. We will see you next time.